Who's here from the Alliance? Is that you, Shelley Joe? Let's go around the horn and just say hi to everybody. Francis, I think I've seen your face before. Oh, hi. From the Alliance, do you want to allow me the privilege of sharing screen?
Yeah, it's already done, Miss Debra. You're the co-host
Thank you.
now. Thank you.
Hello, Mary. I'm Debra Filla. I'm here in Kansas City, and I've had the pleasure of finding so many of the resources and education that I'm going to share with you today by finding the Alliance for Addiction Solutions. So I I'm passionate about answering the question that if that plagued me, which is if addiction isn't a disease, that we've now categorized it, which are the pharmaceutical companies were very happy about. So now they can sell a solution with all of the appropriate numerals that go behind every disease. But if it's a disease, what's broken and how do we fix it? And that's been the driving question behind where I am today and with you today. So I'm glad to share with you a snippet of what I'm doing. And if you don't mind, we just go around the horn and everybody introduce themselves and why you came to it. I mean, what do you hope to learn today? Francis, start it off, please.
All right. Good morning. My name is Francis Holmes. I am a functional nutritionist, been around this area for a long time, and I'm in Northern California working with addiction places to help them understand this information. And today, what I hope to learn is some wonderful tidbits from you, Debra, another expert in the field. So thank you so much.
Expert.
Well, you know what? You're an expert in my book, so thank you.
Thank you. The disease humbles all of us, doesn't it? Mary, tell us about you and what do you want to hear today?
Hi, Debra. I'm Mary Travestino. I too am a functional nutritionist, holistic health coach, just graduated college in the addictions program at 62. A Jersey girl. And Debra, you actually with Christina did the intro class. I did it with you sometime this year. I don't know where the year went. But like Debra, that's it, or like I'm sorry, like Francis said, ditto. I just wanted to, be amongst all of you and glean some great things. So thank you.
Mary, how about you? If you're talking, we can't hear you. And then Julie, I'm going to call on you next. If you want to introduce yourself and say where you are calling from and what you'd like to learn today.
Hi, this is Julie Clark. Can you hear me?
Yes, Julie, thank you.
Oh, good. Hey, so yeah, I'm Julie Clark. I am calling from Virginia. Sorry, I'm not on camera. I was just meaning to hang in the background and learn from you guys today. I am a carbohydrate addiction coach, and I believe passionately in the power of nutrition and condensed nutrition in the form of amino acids and mineral supplementation to improve cravings in addiction and to just improve all manner of health conditions. So I'm listening in the background and very interested in the subject. Thank you for your service today.
Thanks. And Coveney, if you're there and available to share with us where you're calling from and what you'd like to learn today.
Hi, I also am attempting to just chime in here. My name is Coveney Fitzsimmons. I'm a family medicine doctor, actually from upstate New York. And I recently just went to the annual Restorative Medicine Conference in Burlington and heard lots of wonderful information. In particular, Dr. Madhava made a presentation that was quite striking. And I work with a lot of underserved population that could really use a lot of support nutritionally. And so just kind of trying to fill in my education with some additional pieces is really helpful as I try to navigate both allopathic medicine and some attempt to stretch further with some functional medicine approaches and nutrition as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Coveney. Thanks for being here. Ann Jackson, you want to jump on here and tell us who you are and where you're from?
Hi, I am from near Toronto in Canada. I I have sort of on and off joined into some of these lectures over the last few years, and I noticed this one and was, yeah, just interested to sort of participate as a viewer and listener more than anything else. I'm just curious about what the presentation will be about.
I love a curious cat, so thanks for being here. And Barry, I don't know if you wanted to. Hi, Shelley. There, you got a grandbaby, of course. We know that. What will we do without Shelley running the show? And Salvatore, she's our president. Salvatore's our VP. You guys want to say hey and holler anything here? Can't hear you, Shelley. Salvatore, while she's dealing with technical things, do you want to say a word?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Salvatore Di Liello. I'm a naturopath doctor in the Northeastern Ohio. I've done both level 1 and level 2 with Christina. I'm also sitting on the board of directors for the Alliance along with Shelley. And in the past, I've attended other lectures from Debra and always found it very interesting and always learned something. So thank you, and I hope you will too.
Thank you. All right. Well, Shelley, I think we got you introduced with her, and now your mute's on. So
all right,
there you go.
I got it. Okay, I am just glad to be here. Debra, thank you so much for doing this today, and we're excited to hear from you. Most of the time I'm going to be on mute, and I'm also going to be on off camera just because my garage door is broken, and I'm hoping that the guy calls me and tells me he can come fix it. So I will be listening.
Do you want to tell us who are in training? I believe she's got, or he or she's got glasses so that she can read and see everything on the screen. So who's this little one?
This is Ashton. She is 20 months old.
And start young.
A lot of fun. Right now I'm the chairman of the Alliance along with Salvatore. Is Boss on here? Nope. I'm a certified addiction recovery mental health nutrition coach. I've gone through all of Christina Veslek's classes. I'm a hypnotherapist. I live in Roy, Utah, and have my own program that is serving people all over the place. And I'm a grandma. So there you go. We're here and we're listening.
The reason you have to go off camera is because no one can compete with that kind of cute, right? Nobody can compete with that.
No,
I don't know, Shelley. You look like you could be the mama, not the grandma.
Yeah.
well,
Right. I'm loving the hairdo.
Yeah.
Taylor just joined us. Do you want to say hello and what you'd like to learn? And then we're going to jump into the presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I didn't see that my mic was on. Yeah, hi, I'm Taylor Miller, and I love like the connection between food and blood sugar and sobriety.
Hey, you got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump in here, and once I start talking, I don't really see anything very easily in terms of chats or that sort of thing. So do feel free to holler out. We're a small crowd, and I will have hopefully time for questions at the end. So without further ado, let's do a share screen and we'll get going here. I'm going to stop share and I'm going to go back and do that share again so that I add the sound just in case we want to do anything with that. So, all right. So what's the power of nutrition and recovery? What's nutrition got to do with it? All my titles have something about what's something got to do with it because I was listening to Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it when I did this? And so all of those have to be playing in your background with Tina Turner while I'm doing this presentation. So I could play some and then you'll be humming it all day long. So right now, when you look at addiction, traditional treatment programs are dealing with the psychological, the social, the spiritual, and we really have pretty high relapse rates. So can't claim success. And what's missing, I'm sure we all agree, is that we're not talking about healing the body. And so really the third leg of the recovery school at the academy, and with most of you, I'm sure, is that we want to talk about the psychosocial, the behavioral issues, the spiritual issues, and the body is what we need to be talking about. Because I always like to say, if you've got a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum, you can't talk your way out of it. And I don't think praying is going to get the problem solved. You need to get that kid some food and a nap before we can talk about any of the other 2 legs of the stool. So feeding the brain and healing the gut is the mantra here. And what's food or lack of it got to do with relapse? I'm sure most of you know this. A hungry brain is offline. It's self-control, impulse control, access to sobriety skills are down, and you are literally on slippery ice. So food puts us on solid ground. Signs of a starving brain are cravings, brain fog, can't focus, can't remember, tired, wired, and weird, upset stomach, diarrhea alternating with constipation, can't sleep, irritable, anxious, depressed, and obsessive. And pain issues with headaches, fibromyalgia, and all of those can be accompanying as well. Starving? I mean, why? When you think about it, most people in addiction have stopped eating, and the food they are eating isn't healthy. I remember one court-ordered counselor said most of the people are eating out of convenience stores. And while you might get an apple and a boiled egg these days, 90% of the food there is not healthy. And beyond water, probably most of the drinks aren't either. And substance abuse equals digestive issues. And lack of digestion means lack of absorption. Not only does our gut create nutrients, it needs to absorb them. So if we aren't doing that part of the job, we aren't getting what we eat, even if it is good. By middle and late stage of addiction, most folks are profoundly nutrient depleted. I always like to talk about some of our founders. And by the way, you're getting snippets of a 6-hour CEU course that I teach, and I'll tell you more about it at the end. But I like to talk about the pioneers, and this is just a subset of them, because I want to help people create the belief that this works. It's not new. And Dr. Abram Hoffer worked with Bill W. to address his B3 niacin deficiency. And here are the symptoms, and he acknowledged severe depression that he dealt with his entire life. And he spent the last 11 years of his life promoting B3, because when Dr. Hoffer gave him high doses of B3 niacin, I wouldn't say cured, but his depression was mitigated in just a couple of weeks after a lifetime of suffering from it. And he was such a proponent of it. He spent the last 11 years promoting it. And when they asked him what was the most important thing you accomplished in your life, he said was B3 niacin therapy. He approached AA, which he was, founder of, and they said this is a spiritual program and it is not our place to be talking about supplementation. But he felt it was adamant that it wasn't enough to be just sober, but one needed to be well adjusted and happy in life. On the Academy's page, there is the forgotten chapter of Bill's struggle with addiction. And he was so adamant about B3 therapy that he wrote not 1, not 2, but 3 pamphlets. There was studies done with 500 participants with other doctors, and they found that 2/3 of them improved with this just one nutrient. And he was on the right track, but it was a limited one nutrient only. But we all know now there's so many more nutrients that are involved in this. Certainly one of the pioneers for me was when I ran across this book, 7 Weeks to Sobriety. I was in an Al-Anon meeting, and someone across the hall of AA came over because he and his spouse had both been drinking, and now he was sober and she was not, and he wanted to know how we could get her fixed. And obviously we can't do that. So, but I did pick this book up and fall into it like a camel to water. Depression and suicide and really were her motivators to write this book. Her son in high school had started drinking after her husband, his father, was killed, and she got him into treatment. He was in a halfway house. She could see he was depressed, and he committed suicide. She also, in her book, looks at different kind of alcoholic biotypes, which is very interesting to read and learn about it because we're not all the same. And while someone might get relaxed with marijuana, other people use it to study, which is mind-boggling for me. Hypoglycemia versus dry drunk, I'll touch on that some more, but the fact about the tie-in to hypoglycemia is critical, and we'll talk more. She added diets and supplements and amino acid therapy, and she took the success rate from 24 to 74%. And that was in 1992. Now, why haven't we heard more about it and recreated that? No money, no pharmaceuticals is my answer, but you'll leave it up to your own. But it is worthy of a read. She also wrote Depression Free Naturally. I don't think anybody here on the call doesn't know the pioneer of Julia Ross. She wrote The Diet Cure First, about it's not a willpower thing. You have to feed yourself so you don't have cravings. She republished that book 10 years later. In between, she wrote The Mood Cure, which is what I ran into. I ran into all three of those books. And then her latest is The Cravings Cure. Several of you have mentioned amino acid, and I would think all could say that she's kind of got The Mood Cure is the Bible for amino acid therapy. A current pioneer is Dr. James Greenblatt. He's a psychiatrist, and I love this quote: "Nutrition is not alternative medicine." I love that. He's a functional psychiatrist, an author, depression, finally focused for ADHD, light on schizophrenia, eating disorders, and a founder of Psychiatric Redefined. I urge you to check it out. He puts a webcast out every month, that webinar that's free to everyone. And I've just signed up for the next 4 that he's got on his calendar. Another one that really impacted me was this book, Dr. Daniel Amen, because he brought something to this party that no one had done, which is if it's a disease, what's broken? He's a psychiatrist teamed up with scanning and big time on nutrition, authored many books, and Scan Your Brain and YouTube and Instagram. He's out there everywhere. But he gave us a picture. Now we can see what is broken. And I want to just take a moment to look at this. If you start at the top and you look at a healthy downside of a brain, you'll see this is for all ages. If you go down to the left side here, 3 years on meth by 28. Look at the divots in the brain. Next one is age 45, 10 years on alcohol. The next one is 4 years on cocaine by a 32-year-old. Going back to the top of the chart, here is the healthy underside of all ages of scans of the underside of our brain. The next one, age 17, 4 years of marijuana. Age 22, 4 years of smoking, which was a surprise for me. I did not expect nicotine to be affecting the brain, but here it is, proofs in the pudding. And then 6 years of opiates by someone who's 38. And right over here is you'll see a URL link by brainmd.com. Which brain do you want poster? For $6 you can go buy this for perhaps use in your office to help people see the damage that they're doing to their body. And that's why they don't feel good, and it's going to only get worse. Okay. So I love to take this quiz with people during the class of how many diseases or mental illnesses are. I mean, we've scurvy, anxiety, depression, rickets, arthritis, alcoholism, spina bifida, pyroluria. Is there one? Is there 1,000? Is there 5,000? Is there 10,000 or some other answer? I'm going to take you off screen right now and let everybody shout out. Hi, Gloria. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining. Anybody want to shout out an answer of what you think the answer is?
Unknown.
Unknown. Anybody else want to vote? All right.
Same, unknown.
All right. Well, I'm a simple girl and I like big, easy things too. And I like the answer that this that this particular gentleman said, Raymond Francis, he said there's only one disease, and that's when the cell is damaged, when you get malfunctioning cells. And there's two root causes, and I know you know them: nutritional deficiencies and exposure to toxins. That's it. Where the cell fails, in the knee, it's arthritis. In its brain, it's alcoholism. That, to me, makes it easier for me to talk about, what do I have to do? I need to provide the nutrition for my body, and I limit the toxins, including people, places, and things. Here is an example of a nutritional deficiency. I don't know how many of you have heard of pyroluria, but it affects 40 to 60% of folks with alcohol disorder and other mental health and addictive disorders. It's a family genetic disorder that depletes zinc and B6. And these are the symptoms: social anxiety, often starting in childhood, difficulty dealing with stress and change, might exhibit as anger and aggressiveness, white spots on the fingernails and stretch marks. I'm pretty sure that's the zinc deficiency, morning nausea, and difficulty digesting meat. I have an associate who went through training with the academy with Christina, and she did not know about this, and she had it. And she said, thank you for explaining why, if anybody mentioned eggs for breakfast, she wanted to hurl what she hadn't even eaten yet. She cannot think about eating anything that is a protein until it's close to lunch. So how do you find out more? There's a symptom questionnaire, and you can do a urine test from DHA lab. And for those of you who want to take this, I'm going to, sorry, I don't do this smoothly or elegantly, but I'm going to grab that URL and post it in the chat for anybody who might want to get this from Trudy Scott's website if you don't already have this resource. And let me go up here and go to chat. There you go. There's that question. There's that. Okay. That. I'll go back into mood. Okay. Exposure to toxins, and I'm going to talk about bread as a toxin, because I got started really knee deep into nutrition to another level when my youngest daughter got alopecia at 14, quarter-size spot, healed up, came back at 15, still another bigger patch back in the back of her head, still could in fact hide it. Started eating right again, it came back. 16, right before Father's Day, she had a fever so heavy that she was teeth chattering inside a quilt on June. And she said her hair started falling out right away, but I didn't notice it until we were pulling out a ponytail knot about 10 days later, and it started coming out in clumps. So that was mid-June. By July, she had a spot on the top of her head so big she was now wearing a cap. By August, we had her on, she was wearing a wig. All her hair came off, her entire body, including nose hair. It's very helpful to stop that running nose before that snot hits the table. But it was a real big learning curve. I took a 12-week family leave and just dove into it and found a whole lot of scary characters associated with leaky gut and our digestive system. In this particular study I'm mentioning here is a worldwide rate of first-time admissions of psychiatric institutions after grain rations, aka wheat, were decreased during the war. And it's hard to reproduce that, but it showed that what you eat, what you don't eat, has an impact. Dr. Peter Green, since I went down the celiac disease, it's the one disease that seems to have an autoimmune disease, an understanding of how to fix it, is saying that there's an emerging group of people with gluten sensitivity that have such psychiatric and neurological disorders, including schizophrenia, ADHD, depression, and bipolar, than other groups of folks. Christine will even talk, I'm going to stop share for a minute. Christina talks about one of her patients who came in, and turns out he came in so under the influence that he could hardly talk or walk. It was her first appointment. And she had asked all of her first time patients to bring in all of their supplements. So he had a bag with all his supplements. And luckily, because he'd been weightlifting, he had some glycemine. And so she got some, gave it to him. He could actually speak and walk straight. And she got him an Uber, got him home, and he came back for the next appointment. So she asked him about, had he at any point in time in his life had sustained sobriety. And he said, yeah, for a couple of years, actually. And she said, well, what happened? He said, well, my sister got diagnosed for celiac. And she said, would you do this diet with me? And she said, sure. And he said, I was sober for that 2 years. And so she said, well, would you be willing to try that again? And sure enough, he tried it again and found it was easier to maintain his sobriety. And he was sober and dealing with other issues that have arrived and we have to delve into. And so he has a group of guys that are going fishing. And, he wasn't in charge of food. And as you would probably imagine, some guys are going to have sandwiches and crackers and cheese and probably some bagels and croissants and muffins and cookies. So, by the time the 3-day, 4-day, whatever fishing trip was over, they're walking back into town. And he goes by a bar, same bar that he walked by on the way to the fishing trip that he didn't even notice. But now that fishing trip, that bar had neon signs calling his name, come see me, I have just what you want. And that's when he had the aha moment. I really can't do gluten. So she said that in her course of 40 years, she's found 3 people who could not maintain their sobriety while they're eating. And there's more to be learned about that. And I'm sure any one of you might be able to teach, a good section of time on that topic. So moving on, and I'm wanting to share with you and if I'm talking too fast, I apologize, but I love this saying that you are what you are what you eat, you are what you drink, and you are what you think. And I love this quote because I like to give the people I'm coaching the confidence that they are in charge of three-fourths of that: eat, drink, and think. Thinking is kind of a tough one. It helps to have a 12-step program or a therapist or some other good friends to give you feedback. But eating and drinking and thinking, you think, well, I can be in charge of that. You are what you are. You say, well, I am what I am. But now we know epigenetics will even change some of that DNA based on what we eat and when we sleep and those sorts of factors. So what the point of this slide is, we have really good odds for taking control of our health and our sobriety and our mental health. So what's hypoglycemia got to do with it? Well, what is reactive hypoglycemia? It is an exaggerated blood sugar response resulting in very low blood sugar, very low. And why is it important? Guesstimates say that probably nearly everyone in substance use disorder had low blood sugar before they relapsed. It sets the stage. Here are the symptoms of hypoglycemia that are caused by an influx of high insulin when any kind of high carb or sugar food, drink is intake. There's confusion, fatigue, and weepiness and depression that come from that high infusion of insulin. Well, when that happens, the body, when it's having that spike of high blood sugar, is pumping out the insulin. And then because of this reactive hypoglycemia, trying to get back to our baseline, the body overshoots it. And now we're heading for insulin shock. And that's when the body jumps in and tells the adrenals, pump some adrenaline out, because that will soak up the insulin by putting out more sugar, if you will. And then the impact of all of that adrenaline rush comes into these symptoms of irritability, aggressiveness, insomnia, nervousness, and a desire to drink or use. I need some comfort here. I don't feel good. And interestingly enough, post-acute withdrawal symptoms, all the same things. Used to be what they call dry drunk. all those same things. So if a person isn't dealing with blood sugar, even though they may not be drinking, they in fact may feel to the people around them just as unstable and irritable and yelling and not able to sleep and just not a fun person to be around without warning. This chart is from the Inner Balance Health Center. I don't know how many of you are aware of Inner Balance. It's a treatment center in Loveland, Colorado. The director, Joe Isley, had his own biochemical issues to deal with. And in the clinic, everyone comes in and has a 4-hour glucose tolerance test. So Christina and some students went and did a sample survey. And of these 20 clients, it did not matter what their drug of choice was. They all had hypoglycemia. In fact, Joe thinks that probably over a couple decades in an outpatient, he's probably had less than a dozen folks that did not have hypoglycemia coming to the treatment center. And when I ask people about this, do they know about it? Have they talked about it when they've gone to treatment? And the answer is no. And to me, that's what I feel is almost a criminal neglect, that we're not talking with people about how to manage their blood sugar, and in managing their blood sugar, increase their odds for sobriety, mental health, and avoiding relapse. This is the book he wrote. I would recommend it, Leaving Drug and Alcohol Addictions for Good. It's kind of, he writes his story, and against his conversation with his ghostwriter, Sharon, is dealing with a son who's addicted. So it was really a nice interplay back and forth. And it was interesting in hearing this story that his first introduction to his getting high was from his mother when he was 14. He had a really bad cough, and she gave him some cough medicine with codeine. And he said it was the first time he experienced peace. And I say that again. It was the first time he experienced peace at 14. Now, if that's the situation presented to someone, I understand why they keep chasing that. Isn't that what we all want, is peace and serenity? So I like to give this quiz. I'm sure most of you are aware of the glycemia index chart. Low is below 55, medium is 55 to 69, and high is over 70. So which food in the bottom list, wine, bananas, sugar, Snickers, whole wheat bread, Life Shake, which causes the highest glycemic index load? What covers the lowest? Shout out. Anybody want to venture a guess?
The banana,
Anybody else?
besides white sugar.
I like those answers. What else?
That wine.
Okay. You ready for the drum roll? Can I have a drum roll, guys and gals? There you go. And the answer is whole wheat bread.
Yeah.
With a glycemic index of 71. Doesn't matter whether it's wheat or white. Sugar's next, candy bar, banana, and then the protein shake. In fact, few foods can beat out wheat in spiking blood sugar. That's from David Perlmutter, a doctor, a neurologist, from his book Grain Brain. And he asked this question: what if we're all sensitive to gluten from the perspective of the brain? And you got to know that we have so many addictions, and certainly food addictions. I have a chart that talks about, I have a chart where I ask the question, if kids aren't in fact discovering this on their own, because their favorite foods are wheat, bread, and cheese, and sugar, which Julie Ross says are the 3 addictive foods. And grilled cheese in a juice box, a pasta, macaroni and cheese pizza, maybe with some pepperoni. Have they found their first legal substance at a young age? So after the fireworks of high blood sugar, what happens? You have an immediate depletion of the neurotransmitters serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, GABA, and dopamine, and shrinking of the brain. Not good. NG. These 5 neurotransmitters are the natural street drugs that your body makes to feel happy, energized, focused, relaxed, and calm. So why would we want to deplete them? We wouldn't, but it's happening over and over again. Depleted neurotransmitters equal cravings, equal relapse. Wait, you say, what about the wine? Well, alcohol actually lowers blood sugar. Pure grain alcohol is 0 on the glycemic index. It's metabolized by our liver, and because it's a toxin, it is metabolized before other sources of food, of energy, i.e. food. It stimulates insulin release, and that contributes to the insulin resistance, and just 2 ounces can lower blood sugar to dangerous levels. We have a whole class on the relief for hypoglycemia, the pro-recovery diet. The answer is protein and complex carbs every 3 to 4 hours. Men, 60 to 80 grams, women, 40 to 60, plus fiber and healthy fats. They slow down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. And I make sure everyone knows the answer to this question. How much of our brain is fat? And the answer is 60%. A low-fat diet is not good for us. Premenstrual women need protein more frequently, right before they ovulate. Before their cycle starts, they actually have a greater need for extra protein. Most women relapse during PMS. It is the highest time of risk in terms of unprotected sex, drug use, shoplifting. But did anyone know that before you started doing this research or went to Christina's class? I certainly did. And I know I was always carb craving at that time, which is not the thing I really needed to be doing. So I like a visual, and this is the visual I hand out during the class for people to share for themselves, their family, and their clients, which is the pro-recovery plate. I don't want people measuring things, counting calories, or any of that. I want them to think that every plate should be like this, was half fruits and veggies, 2/3 veggies, almost half the plate should be veggies. Water of a drink of choice, protein is a 4th, and complex carbs. And I'm talking about sweet potatoes being my friend, and quinoa, brown rice, and adding healthy fats. And I love butter and olive oil and all the fats we get in our nuts. So they're my snack of choice. This article is written by Christina. I looked for it. It used to be on the Alliance website, but if anybody wants that, this article sent to them as a PDF, let me know. It just talks about something that you can hand out to your clients and take home with them. One of my friends came to one of my very first lectures I did for Heartland Health, and she said she doesn't know how many times that she's handed this out to her clients. And Christina can tell you story after story and never has she had someone come in and say, you know, I was sober, I had a great meal, and then I decided I want to go out and drink after dinner drink and go dancing and get loaded. Hasn't had that story come about. This is a case study I wanted to share. Christine, her husband, was also doing counseling, and it was one of his his clients whose wife had said, if you don't do something about this anger, he was coming home at the end of the day and absolutely terrorizing his family. She says, we're getting a divorce. And so she, I'm gonna, I want to look at Jack Nicholson so long. She asked him what he ate, which is the greatest lesson I got from, I think from Christina. There's so many great lessons, but to ask, what have you eaten? And more importantly, what haven't you eaten? And he said, oh, I don't do breakfast now. I don't do that. And if somebody's got some celebration going on and there's bagels, I'll eat something like that, or I'll just grab a bag of chips. And on the way home, I'll grab a candy bar and and head home. And by that time, I mean, his blood sugar is so long, he's just a walking time bomb. And sure enough, he tried the experiment of having breakfast, something to lunch, and eating a protein bar on the way home. And a different man walked through the door. Still needed a lot of counseling because everybody's still pretty traumatized. And I just want to use this occasion to say that I always ask people to look at the ingredients on a protein bar. And if it is got more sugar, then it's not a protein bar. It's just it's a healthy candy bar. So a protein bar has to have at least equal amount of sugar to protein, and preferably more protein than sugar. There. I'm not going to take the time to show you this, but please look up this trailer called The Magic Pill. And I like to think about it as the myth of the fat-free diet. It's a lovely documentary. And it delves into the very beginning of when the low-fat diet was started promoted. The physician for Eisenhower, when he had a heart attack, cherry-picked the data and came up with a conclusion that a low-fat diet would stop heart attacks. It's never been recreated. And in fact, we know now that when you get to a low-fat, high-carb diet, we are really not helping our brain and our body and the insulin and our weight and our energy, cancer, a million and one things they talk about in this video. So look at the trailer. It's just 2 minutes. If we had time at the end, I'll play it. But otherwise, take a look at it and find where you can see streaming. It's a powerful one. Just if you show the stream, I'll show you how it starts out.
Fat's no good. Fat's no good. Don't want fat in my diet.
We have lived a lie for 50 years.
You know, it's not an accident that people are hooked on all this processed garbage.
Having the federal government get behind the low-fat diet changed vastly the food system.
Suddenly now we're eating a carbohydrate-based diet. You might as well be eating a bowl full of sugar.
The one question I wish every single doctor would ask is, what are you eating?
Maple and brown sugar, heart healthy. You know that can't be right?
What powers the brain far more efficiently is fat.
We need to get back into the kitchen.
So we're going to add more fat to the diet. I mean, good, natural fat.
Coronary artery disease.
I have asthma.
Type 2 diabetes.
Has epilepsy.
Autism.
High cholesterol.
Cancer.
So when we get rid of refined sugars, refined grains, refined vegetable oils, processed foods, it's basically meat and vegetables.
We might be able to influence a variety of organ systems through one intervention.
This is a unique event in the history of modern medicine.
They are powerful vested interests.
This will seriously harm our profession.
Pharmaceutical companies are profiting from this. Weight loss industry is profiting.
Again, I wanted to share, one of the things they did was they took this autistic little girl and it took away her Ritz crackers, her goldfish, and she thought she'd done something wrong. She did not eat for 5 days. And then when she did, she lit into a steak. So it isn't an easy transition for people to make, but I thought it was a powerful message. So I hope you'll watch the rest of it and help it. It will be helpful for your clients to share with your clients.
And from this, undertakers are making out like bad.
So as I shared with you, because of my daughter's autoimmune disease, I came into nutrition hot and heavy from the gut perspective. There are more people with autoimmune diseases than heart and cancer combined. But because they're all individual silos, it doesn't get added up. But there are more autoimmune diseases than cancer and heart disease combined. And we heard it a long time ago, all disease begins in the gut by Hippocrates. And we're just now in the last couple decades have been studying the gut. And so now the scientists said there's so much they're learning. It's almost like finding a new organ. But this Dr. Jane Foster, as you can see from her title as a neuroscientist and an associate professor of psychiatry and behavioral neuroscience in 2011, is writing this article where she says the gut biome is actually the interface between your diet and your genetics, influencing you on a day-to-day basis. And that the brain and the gut are not two separate systems. They are two systems of a single system. And the crosstalk is continual. So I used to think, like a lot of people, that it was our second brain. The gut was our second brain, but it's just now the gut-brain axis. So I'm sure most of you all know that. I have a slide that talks just about what happens when you have brain injury, and half of them are in the gut. So why does a brain injury affect the gut? So, you know, the brain's talking to the gut, the gut's talking to the brain, and they are the yin and the yang of one system. I think about someone coming into ER, they have both their legs in a car accident, and the doctor said, which one do you want me to save, the left or the right? And the answer is both, please. I want us to be shifting gears as we look at how to get a person back online after recovery, not just getting their brain online, but to get their whole system online, the brain and the gut. Here's a great, small, but a study that shows you the significance of it. So 60 alcoholics, 26 suffered from leaky gut syndrome with low amounts of bacteria with an anti-inflammatory bacteria. After 19 days without alcohol, the 26 with leaky gut still scored high on depression, anxiety, and cravings. 34 that had normal gut flora recovered faster with lower measurements of those same criteria and was comparable to a control group who did not have a drinking problem. That was done in 2014. I'm coming back to celiac disease, and I just want to leave this because it's a whole topic. We could spend much more. It's not just a single disease that might be being affected by glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. This was a graph I got in when I was in the celiac gut, leaky gut stage of my learning. And in the yellow, you have the incidences of celiac diagnosis at a hospital discharge. The black line is the number, thousands of pounds of glyphosate that are applied to wheat. But wait, you say, wheat isn't a GMO. No, it's not. But it kills the blue ryegrass or increases the yield or some reason, and they put it on there. And now, why is this perhaps the reason? Perhaps everyone says, well, why is everybody saying they're having a problem with gluten these days? We may have always had some subset that have a problem with it, gluten, but maybe what we really have is a problem with glyphosate. It's glyphosate. I mean, this particular, I'm going to put all these up at the same time because 70 to 80% of our immune system's in our gut. And this YouTube video by Dr. Zach Bush. I'm not going to try and copy and paste and get out of here, but just look up the title and go to YouTube and you'll find it. Dr. Zach Bush was down in the bowels of looking at diseases as he was trying to come up with chemotherapy. And he had an aha moment. He said, what if glyphosate is toxic to our gut? Remember where it's 80% of our immune system? But he says it's not just a single thing. Look at the graph to autism and all the ones to the right here. Whether it's starting on, I'm going to grab if you look to that graph with all the different rainbow colors, it doesn't matter which disease, they all are increasing in the same corresponding way as we saw with celiac or autism. They're all different people. Alzheimer affects women more than men, Parkinson's, men versus women. And the idea that we didn't diagnose autism, and that was the reason it was under it's increasing, is now we're doing that. And he said, what? I've got kids banging their heads against the wall in abject misery, and we missed that? So he goes on to share how if we stopped applying Roundup and glyphosate, it would take us 50 years to get it out of our soil, our water, and our air. Only a single digit amount of the chemical actually gets on the plant. The rest is in the ground, is in the water system. He also goes on to talk about how he had this aha moment when he was trying to understand in his cancer research, why is it that when you use Roundup, wheat and corn grow, but the others are killed? Well, how does this chemical disrupt the immune system of that plant, where it doesn't disrupt the plants of corn and soy? And he makes the analogy, is that glyphosate disrupting our immunity system in our gut, so that when Monsanto says it's safe for our human cells, they might be true, but it might not be safe for our gut bacteria. So what do amino acids have to do with it? Well, they're in protein, and we've already talked about the importance of protein. And we have this amino acid therapy chart and precautions, and I'm betting this audience has this chart and has used it from your introductions. Anybody who doesn't have it, I'd be happy to share it with you, but it helps you get an alternative supplement than antidepressants or other pharmaceuticals. It's an easy on and an easy off ramp to see if that's what the cause is. And that's all I'm going to talk about. We spent a whole lecture on it during the course. But as you all know who've gotten your toe wet on it, the more you know, the more you wish you knew more, and the more nuances. But one thing I've become comforted is that when I talk to somebody who's used antidepressants, they've used multiple different ones. They've varied the dosage, and there's no precision to antidepressants that have been, or any other pharmaceutical that's being prescribed. So that gives me more confidence that the trial and error of amino acid is to be expected, because everyone's unique and where they are and what's hurting the most. The one thing I do want to share about this is this particular newsletter. Again, if you want this newsletter, I'll send it to you. It's about 9 pages long by a functional MD, way ahead of her time. And she has an entire newsletter on the benefits of L-glutamine. And I thought was interesting, she said it was her most frequently prescribed supplement as a medical practice, because glutamine is demonstrated as the most abundant amino acid in circulation. And so anyway, I share that that resource with you if you ping me. I'll get my email at the end. And this is not to be studied. I just thought it was interesting that I came across this article that says how to heal your gut to support sleep. And it starts at the bottom with a leaky gut, and tight junctions, and neurotransmitters, and cortisol, and and all the way up into adrenals. And I just thought, everybody is now putting the bigger picture together, and it's very encouraging for me. I hope it's encouraging for you too. But it also helps us understand why it's so hard to figure out this. I have a 30-year IBM background, and my intent of the class I'm going to share with you is to take the knowledge that I got through the academy, level 1 and 2, and to break it down for something that is actionable for a layperson, because I went through that phase where I talked to people with great excitement, and about 10 minutes into the conversation, their eyes are rolling in the back of their head and they want me to stop. And they have no idea what I'm talking about. So this was the hope, is to create a subset of the information in easy layman's terms. I'm just going to touch on one thing about sleep robbers, sugar, caffeine. To ask your clients, how much caffeine are they drinking? Just say no after lunch. How many Red Bulls? binging, there's my addiction, a cell phone, video games. I mean, I played plenty of my Pac-Man games in my day. And now kids have all of that coming to them before they even get in kindergarten. I'm just the sugar. There's a young lady that just had a fatal reaction to the lemonade at Panera because it had too much caffeine and too much sugar, and it was identified. So illegal stimulants, if you want to look at this particular article by John McDirt in Esquire is where I got all these graphics, and he shows, you know, how much caffeine is, starting with an ounce of chocolate and a cup of tea, which I used to combine and have before bed. Duh, not a good idea. Going into a can of soda, a shot of espresso. I thought it was more than a cup of coffee. Another wrong assumption. The average consumption is 1.5 cups. Most people don't have a problem, but for those who do, there's plenty of solutions. 2 cups of coffee is a recommended daily limit for pregnant women, and then 4 cups is the recommended daily limit for all adults. When you get to 10 cups, you're hitting the level of this gentleman who was the article that he wrote about, Marcus Bevan's daily intake, 10 cups of coffee a day. He had restlessness, irritability, nervous, vomiting, rapid heart rate, tremors. He had to take a medical leave, and there was no other symptoms of why he needed to do that. It took him a couple of years before he concluded this is probably why. My husband was having heart palpitations, went to his physician. He said, how many cups of coffee are you having? He said, 10. He said, oh man, that is a powerful stimulate. That knock off the coffee and see if the heart palpitations go away. And sure enough, they did. He told him, the physician, that my husband, that he will tell people to lay off coffee for 30 days and come back, and they think that he is a miracle worker. So it's a good question. Here's a little caffeine chart. And it's one of the things I like to ask folks to do is to count up their coffee and their sodas and teas and say, I wonder if that's why you might be having trouble sleeping. And there's a Mountain Dew, a can of it. So I'm coming up on 2 hours. I just want to let you know that this is the class. It's 6 CEUs, Discover the Power of Nutrition and Recovery. And you guys don't need this as much, but it was designed for an intro level to nutrition, for peer coaches, for anybody who is a helper, whether it's social work or a counselor. There is the link for you to use if you want to take this class to get, so the Alliance gets credit for it. Our next class and our last for the year is coming up November 7th and 8th, midday. So, oops, I didn't want to do that. I want to go back to, I have a couple more things to share with you. Sorry about that. Let me go back to the end, okay, and I have my okay. And this particular chart just really shows you, oh my gosh, why is that not doing that? Okay, that is how the 6 classes are laid out for the 6 CEUs, nutrition and pioneers in chemistry, which I showed you a lot more in depth into hypoglycemia, how it works, a lot more in depth on the pro-recovery diet, a lot more in depth on the gut, and a whole class on amino acids, and a lot more information on sleep. So that's the idea. And the class is very practical. It has a 1-pager with lots of these handouts, and the PowerPoints in note form, the video, so that they can become their own teacher to laymen. And that's what for anybody who wants, here's my contact information. And with that, I will stop. I will ask if there's any questions.
I just want to say thank you, Deborah. This was really, really amazingly done. And what a beautiful presentation. And just your way of delivering it is so calming and soothing and beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how do I take that and put that in my head and be able to deliver it that way?
Yeah.
I get you on
well,
I get you on the glazed over.
Well, the kiss comes into principle and practice helps. So thank you. Yeah. Hi, Bruce. Good to see you again.
Hey, Deborah, is this presentation on the 6-hour course, or did you tweak it?
I took 6 hours and put it there's something from every single presentation in what I shared with you today, but you can tell I would have slowed down, had more questions, and we have more breakout sessions, so we allow a little absorption time. I did not give you any absorption time in this class, but if for 6 hours, you can imagine you need more. Every participant gets to do their own amino acid therapy chart. We talk about that. And
yeah, I did that class with you. It's excellent. Highly recommended.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
I thought you looked very familiar. So
is this call recorded so we could send this to people?
I do believe
Yes.
for members, you have access to it. Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. I have to go. And Deborah, thank you so much. Francis, I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you
Bye,
so
have a
much.
great day.
Thanks, Deborah.
Deborah, thank you so much. That was really interesting. I appreciate that. The recording will be in the membership of the Alliance on the website. So if you're a member, then you go in and watch this afterwards.
Thanks, Deborah. It was great. It was really good.
Really good.
Thank you, Valtha. Thanks for joining the board. And if you could send me a link to the recording guru of the Zoom, I would appreciate that. Any other questions I can answer before you hop off?
No, just great. Thanks. Great job, Deborah.
Thank you.
That was really good. Thanks, Deborah.
Yeah, come back, Deborah.
All righty. Bye-bye.